Well done, Chad. Thank you, sir. Byron York, some analysis. And Byron, good morning to you. So this is Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. Chad's been on this story from the beginning, and when he found out about Kazakhstan about 2 weeks ago, it surprised him. It's not like it's England, France, and Italy, Byron.
No, these are some very troubled parts of the world, known for their corruption, and it's clearly something that's a major influence on United States policy. And what we've seen with these new documents this morning is shedding more light on how some of this actually works. Chad mentioned this dinner, spring of 2014. It was at Cafe Milano, which is a prominent restaurant in Washington. And Joe Biden went there, and he went there for dinner. We've occasionally heard about Biden maybe showing up, shaking a couple of hands, and leaving. No, he was there for the dinner. The interesting thing is there was a woman named Yelena Baturina, a Russian billionaire. Her late husband had been mayor of Moscow. She sends $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca Thornton, which is one of Hunter Biden's companies. And amazingly enough, around the same time, she finds herself at dinner at Cafe Milano with the Vice President of the United States. Now, if you listen to Devon Archer in his testimony, it's amazing. Most of the time, everybody seemed to be talking about the weather. I mean, they're just talking about the weather all the time. But Republicans obviously are a bit more suspicious than that and want to find out what business may have been transacted at these meetings.
Byron, it is pretty remarkable to go back and watch that one clip where Peter Doocy asked Joe Biden on the campaign trail, did you ever talk to, and Biden is explicit. He says, I never spoke to my son about his business dealings. And I just think that I wonder how long they can go with trying to live that fiction, since we know they didn't just talk about the weather. You know, you don't get invited to Cafe Milano. If you're a vice president, you're like a super busy person, or you should be. And to go to Cafe Milano with your son, you don't go there to talk about the weather. Now, maybe they didn't talk specifically about business, but his presence as the vice president was obvious for that. So I just wonder about the media, and there's like no interest in this story.
Well, the White House is basically stuck with the story, and the thing about the Devon Archer testimony was that it just demolished the former vice president, now president's story about never having discussed business matters with his son. It just blew it up. And the White House has amended the story, saying that Joe Biden was never, quote, in business with his son. But we've never seen any sort of reconciliation with the kind of stuff the now president was saying, that he never discussed this with his son, that he had no knowledge of this with his son. And now we see him going to dinner with people who just sent $3.5 million to his son's companies. So when you mention the media, the question is the White House under pressure to actually talk about this, to account for this? Are there people other than Fox News really keeping up the reporting pressure on this? And the answer, you just got it.
It's no.
The answer is no. And until there are, they probably feel like they can get away with
Byron,
but he doesn't do any interviews either, though. I mean, I do think that he did an interview with the Weather Channel. Okay, like they're not going to ask about Hunter Biden, even though they could have and they should have. There would have been
more talk about the weather.
An amazing career moment for that reporter, but they don't do any interviews. This is like astounding to me. Remember, they were going to return to norms, and they were going to do. He was going to be so transparent. I do think that if they even were willing for him to do an interview, I can't imagine that there is a national reporter from the White House that wouldn't ask. Do you think that's possible? I ask you both.
Well, I just don't know. As far as the interviews are concerned, you're absolutely right. This president is not very accessible at all, although I would say I think there are other reasons that play into the White House calculation, which is the president's attention span, his tendency to commit gaffes, his tendency to lose his train of thought, which we're seeing more and more with him. All of those are not good prerequisites for a hard-hitting media interview. But the fact is, White Houses feel a lot of pressure when there's kind of a full-scale media press going on about a story. And with this story, there isn't one.
Yeah.
It's true.
Byron, thank you so much. Nice to see you today. Byron York there. Just keep in mind what the headline
Thank you,
is.
Bill.
James Comer is now saying that they can account for more than $20 million in payments from foreign sources. Kazakhstan's the latest. Devin Archer in that Q&A last week that we had the transcript of, it was behind closed doors. It was not under oath. I think there's a really good chance that this House committee after Labor Day could bring Devin Archer for a hearing on the Hill. So we'll see whether or not that happens.
What Byron just said about the White House is feeling pressure to answer things. It is true. And as the press secretary, you're thinking, oh my gosh, we have to comment. And sometimes you can get through it, but also as a press secretary, you have an obligation, I think, to make sure that the press has access to the president, and that is certainly not happening.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.